Hi, North Park. This is another district update for April 18th, 2024, and I'm your superintendent, Amy Ward. So today's topic is the master facility plan. This pairs with an article that I wrote for the paper a couple of weeks ago, and I know that the word is starting really to, matriculate through the community. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows exactly where we are and where we are going as far as the district facilities. All right, so first of all, we decided to do a master facility plan last year. We took the entire year and partnered with an architectural firm, HCM, and they came in and they worked with our community on several engagement events. They assessed everything, they looked at every nook and cranny of our building and gave us six options. This master facility plan was completed in August of this school year in 2023. The six options are, first of all, they gave us a choice of a full school replacement. That's sports fields, track, new building, new everything, outbuildings, new ag complex, everything. And that came in with all the bells and whistles at $72 million. A full remodel, changing nothing, just remodeling, bringing everything up to code, addressing the roof, which is a critical issue, came in at 65 million. A lot of that is because they would have to completely redesign the roof and also because of all the asbestos in the building that would need additional mitigation. Then they gave us a couple of different choices for a remodel, part new spaces, and those came in about 55 to 65 million. Because, and this is as far as they went the first time, and because these price tags were so high, which you'll want to talk about funding here in just a minute, um, I also asked them to give us something way cheaper. What can we do between 30 and $40 million? Well, then they came up with a phased in approach, which is a remodel for part of the building and then two new wings. And then that is a three-phase project. Phase one would be mainly all of the instructional places, parking lot, etc. And that came in between 40 and 46 million. There was really nothing they could do for 30 million besides a much smaller project, which we might have to look at some point in time, but not at this time because it really wouldn't get us what we need. Phase two, which would be a new gymnasium, new ag complex, that would come in about 37 million. And then phase three would be a bus garage and some outer buildings, and that would be 14 million. My fear in with this phased in approach, we could only really get funding for this phase one, and my fear would be we would not be able to fund phase two or three, which would then leave us lacking. So why are we doing this right now? I've heard a lot of, this building is fine, it was good enough for me when I graduated in 1966, and it's good enough for my great grandkids. And I do understand that. I love this building, and also there are critical issues. And those critical issues really come through in a Colorado Department of Education facility assessment. They do these assessments every few years around this for all districts around the state, and they rank buildings from excellent to poor. And their rating system, they look at everything. And if you want to see the CDE facility assessment, you can actually find it on our webpage if you go to the strategic plan page about district, then strategic plan, and you can see both our master facility plan and the district assessment. We are going to put that link right on the front page, so you don't have to hunt for it here pretty soon. But both of those are there. So this CDE assessment, we are ranked in the poor section, which is the worst section. Now, we're not the worst of the worst. We're not at the end of the red section. We're more towards the beginning. So, but we are still in the worst category there. Mainly because our building is past its life expectancy, and some of the critical issues just cannot be ignored. And I'll talk about those in a minute. Also, just our students deserve it. Our students to learn deserve to learn in a 21st century building to help them prepare for jobs that we can't even imagine right now. And then just, when we think about our critical issues, the most critical is the roof of our main building. Structurally, it has deteriorated. We have leaks all the time. And this, especially this year. This year, I feel like we have had many waterfalls coming down on us this year, but thankfully, we have a great maintenance director that's been on top of those. And last year, we actually had several patches done from an outside company, and we're still seeing these. But those critical areas in our roof, if our roof was to fail, we can't just even replace it. It needs to be changed completely. It would need to be, the height would need to come up on it. We would need a completely different design. We would need asbestos mitigation and room to run the electrical system. And that is the second um, critical issue. The 1964 electrical system in this building is not appropriate for the technology that we have today. And that's why when you come in our building, you see all the the new electrical wiring and the internet. All of that is run down the hallways now because we can't go up through the roof, mainly because of the third critical issue, which that is asbestos. And any kind of remodel would have to have asbestos mitigation, which really makes your remodels through the roof, and that's why they're so expensive as compared to just a tear it down full school replacement. So that's the why, this behind why we were going down this road right now. So funding's a big issue. Well, how are you going to fund such a thing? Well, first of all, the first path that school districts have to fund new building projects is a bond. We've not had a bond since the 70s, since actually the new gym was built. Because originally, when this building was built, the community only approved a building only. They voted down the addition of an auditorium and a gym. But when the need for that gym kept getting higher and higher, there was another bond campaign, and that's when the gym was added later. And that's the last bond that we have had, actually. Our bonding capacity here in Jackson County would put us this year right around 19.2 million. And that bonding capacity is always changing. So 19.2 million will not touch any of these solutions. So we'll need another funding capacity. So it doesn't matter, like if we were to get a bond, it wouldn't matter which solution we would go with. The 19.2 million is not enough to fund any of them. And so your tax base, your tax amounts are going to remain the same no matter which um, plan that we go with. However, what does matter is how we can fund the other part of that. So 19.2 million is a drop in the bucket for the 72 million. So that's where we would need another funding source. The other funding source for Colorado schools is called the BEST Grant Program, Building Excellent Schools Today. It's a state program. It was developed around 2009, 2010, somewhere in that vicinity, to help um, school districts uh, improve their infrastructure. Typically, they give a 50% match. Like we benefited from a BEST program. Our HVAC, our new boiler system, safety and security, all came from a much smaller BEST grant program where their match was 48% and then we paid the rest. So, but every now and then, when you're in that red category, they will allow school districts who qualify, and we do, to go for a 75% match. That's really the only solution that will get us to some of these, especially like the first three. A 50% match would get us to phase one of a phased in approach. So that's how the BEST grant works. So, what is the plan? We have applied for a BEST grant. It was due in February, and we will find out at the end of May. Typically, it takes school districts multiple times to get a BEST grant and a bond to complete their project. I imagine we will be no different, but we have to start somewhere. So we applied for a full school replacement, the full send, and we applied for the 75% match. Really, for two reasons: to get feedback and to inform our next steps. So we'll find out at the end of May if we get that. I'm optimistic that we will. And most school districts, in fact, it's very rare that a school district gets it on their first try. So let's say we don't get it, we're going to get great feedback to inform our next steps. First of all, it's going to be able to let us know if that 75% match is plausible. And that will help us. Like if we get feedback that is promoting us to go for it again for that 75% match, then when we go to the bond, we're going to go for the full school replacement. If the feedback is is such that it informs us that maybe this phased in approach is the best way to go, or a full remodel, then that is how we're going to structure our next plan. So it is possible, in fact, it's probable that we are going to go for a bond in the fall, in November, regardless if we get this BEST grant or not. And here's why. So let's say we don't get the BEST grant and we get great information that's going to inform which pathway to go for a bond. And we'll plan for that and we'll go for a bond in November. If we get the bond in November, then now we have our match as we go back to the BEST board. And typically, if you already have that bond campaign and you win that, then you have that match. And when you go next time to the BEST grant, it is more likely that they're going to fund you, which is great. Um, let's say we get the BEST grant this first time. Be great. But then we go for a bond in November and we don't get it, which is completely possible. And then we'll have to um, give up the BEST grant and we'll have to go for it again next year. We will restructure our plan. We'll use their feedback, the feedback from the community of why they didn't support it. We will restructure and we will go again next January to go for a BEST grant again. If we get the BEST grant, then when we go to the bond, then we can say, hey, community, we have the 75% match. I'm very optimistic that we would get the 75% match because we really qualify. Then if we get that 75% match, we go to the bond, then we have that funding to go to our community and say, we already have 75% of it fundraised. So that's the plan right now. Now, We won't make that final decision about whether or not to go for a bond until after we get the results from the BEST grant at the end of May, and then the board will make their decision in June on what to do next. So keep following. We do have information on our website under the strategic plan. We will put a link right on our homepage, so it's really easy to find very soon. And our hope is that you will walk shoulder to shoulder with us as we look at what is happening next for the North Park School District so we can continue to ensure that our students are empowered, engaged, and equipped for life for the next 60 years. Reach out if you have questions. Thank you.